Welcome back to HQ. Jaxson Dart had arguably the most impressive preseason this summer, which led to some chatter about him potentially starting week 1 for the Giants. New York ended up going with the veteran Super Bowl winner in Russell Wilson, but made the change going to the rookie this week. Jaxson Dart has played 6 offensive snaps this season, but has had 0 regular season pass attempts. Let's start things off with the situation over at MetLife, and we've got Tyler Sullivan and Emory Hunt to talk about the Giants going with Jaxson Dart. Emory, I'm going to start with you. You're up in that area. You've been to a lot of practices and camp stuff, especially in the preseason. So take me through the change that Brian Daboll is taking on this week.
It was crawl, walk, run, Tommy, in regards to how they brought along Jaxson Dart. He started as a number 3 in OTAs and mini camps, and then by the time the second week of training camp hit, he had moved up to the second string, was working exclusively with the 2s. And when we saw Jaxson Dart get in there, we saw a lot more RPO action, a lot more athletic type play calling. So I expect that to be the case when he's in this ball game as a starter against the Chargers, because that's one thing that Russell Wilson doesn't do well. Even in his prime, Russell Wilson wasn't a quick release type guy. He was more of that play action pass, drop back passer, bomb it out deep. When you want to run that quick RPO type offense, you need someone that has experience in that regard. That's what Jaxson Dart had at Ole Miss, but also has a quick release, and that's what he excels at. I think that's where we're going to see the playbook open up a little bit more. They'll probably be more efficient inside the red zone as a result.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it changes, because it's certainly going to change in terms of the skill set of Jaxson Dart from Russell Wilson. Maybe there's a little bit more of a deep ball aspect to it as well, because, again, you saw that in the game against Kansas City. They simply refused to throw it deep to a guy like Malik Neighbors, so something to watch out there. But the question for me is whether or not this kid is ready to actually take on a team like the Los Angeles Chargers. As much as we can say, okay, how much is the offense going to move? How much is it going to change? What is Brian Daboll going to do? I just keep going back to, is this the right moment? Is this the right time for Jaxson Dart to actually be installed under center for the New York Giants? If you look at their schedule, there really is no perfect moment for this team to install him as their quarterback. It's just so difficult. This week is one of them. You look over the next few weeks as well. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the Denver Broncos. I mean, sure, did you maybe look at that week 5 game against New Orleans Saints and say, sure, that sounds good. But again, those 3 games after that, even 4 if you want to count the San Francisco 49ers, that's a difficult kind of month there for him to absorb. But overall, I just have my concerns of whether or not Dart is going to be capable of weathering this scheduling storm.
Quick follow just for Emory here. What's the take with Jaxson Dart now with Malik Neighbors?
A lot of quick slants, a lot of smoke routes, things to get the ball in his hands quickly, because that's where Malik Neighbors thrives. He's a catch and run guy, in addition to him being a terrific deep threat. So they're going to get him the football quickly, early, and often.
That's going to be good news for Malik Neighbors fantasy managers, I can certainly tell you that. Let's get to another quarterback situation in Atlanta. Michael Penix went through the game. It was not great in Carolina. Kirk Cousins came in. I do have a quote. He said, "Throw it to the wide open receivers when they're open," end quote. Sully, sounds simple enough, but it didn't look that way last weekend.
Yeah, easy enough, right? You just find Drake London, you find Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and you hit them. But as you said, didn't look that great last week. And this is the question, right? I think that a lot of people look at the Atlanta Falcons and say, okay, they have drafted first-round talents over the last few years. As much as, we're kind of putting this on Michael Penix, and rightfully so, they have a cast of characters where he should be able to find an open guy, whether it's Drake London, who they drafted in the first round, Bijan Robinson. I even think Darnell Mooney is a really interesting talent. Of course, Kyle Pitts hasn't lived up to his expectations since being a first-round pick. But overall, there's talent on this roster. So for me, there's concern with Michael Penix as the quarterback on this team. Yes, it's a bad week. We'll see how he responds. But you look at this season in totality, his passer rating's around 70%. He's completing less than 60% of his throws. His off-target rate is in the bottom half of the NFL, bottom third in the NFL. So if he doesn't turn this around, we're going to have some really awkward questions, not necessarily for Kirk Cousins, whether or not he ascends as QB1 again, but if they have a franchise quarterback on the roster.
I look at the smoke that needs to be put towards Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, because when I watch the Falcons play, you talked about those playmakers they have, those first-round picks they have, it looks like they're running plays and not an offense. You have to find some way to sequence these things together, and it looks like, hey, okay, let's get this play for this guy. Let's get this play for this guy. There's no continuity or no type of cohesiveness within their offensive attack. It makes you easier to defend in that regard. Yes, Michael Penix has to play a little bit better, but in my opinion, when you think about the play calling and why this offense seems to sputter despite having playmakers at receiver, tight end, and also in the backfield with two excellent tailbacks, this is more of a play calling issue, a Zach Robinson issue, and we'll see if that changes moving forward.
It's interesting you bring up Robinson because he's like on the short list to take over the Oklahoma State job, and yet it doesn't look too good in the NFL, what he's done so far in the past few games. And by the way, that graphic of Penix 0-4 when the other team scores 7 or more points is certainly glaring as well. All right, I'm a little curious about what's going on in Houston. Maybe you guys can tell me what's going on with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Look, I know the Texans are 0-3, but I don't really think they're 0-3 because of the defense, Emory, and yet they make the move. Why did it come to this?
I feel like it's part annoyance, not talent-based, because everywhere he goes, he performs and performs well, and they tend to win and win Super Bowls. So at the end of the day, this is more like, bro, you great, man, but you hell to be around. Like, and so that wears on people, and it doesn't wear on players more so than staff and coaches. So that has to be the only answer for it, because when you look on the field, man, he's making great plays. He's turning the ball over. He's great on both ends of defense. This just has to be a personality clash. I would suggest see if you can rent him for 3 games and then trade him to somebody else, because that way you get what you get, and then you move on before he becomes a nuisance.
Yeah, there's a case to be made that it could just be a bad culture fit with the Houston Texans. And as you guys said, this is a team that is now 0-3, failing to meet expectations. It's getting a little tight in Houston. So if they don't have a culture fit guy on top of the losing, they're going to show that guy the door more often than not. But there have been some instances where C.J. Gardner-Johnson has kind of messed up a little bit. Again, you look at these games, they've lost them by 1 possession. And there have been instances this season, I can just think back to last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he kind of tried to cheat on a route to cover Parker Washington, led up a big play to Brian Thomas Jr. that set up a touchdown. That's kind of the difference in the game. So on top of maybe being a culture clash and maybe not living up to that system, that's probably why we see him shown the door.
As poorly as they've played, they do still have a chance in a weaker division, but right now the Colts and the Jags certainly have the inside track when it comes to that first month into the season. We have the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We were talking about quarterbacks specifically. Getting curious, your guys' thoughts, some really notable names on there. Sully, I'll give you first word. What do we think?
Yeah, to me, it's Drew Brees is a set and forget. We don't have to really even talk about it. He's getting in on the first ballot. He is someone that is arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. First quarterback to reach 80,000 passing yards. At the time he retired, he was the NFL's all-time leading passer. Of course, a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. He has always been, when he was in his playing career, one of the top 5, top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. The other guys on that list, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning are the 2 other ones. I leave them out. I put Drew Brees in, no question. I don't put Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning in. I think if you combine those 2, yeah, you get a Hall of Fame quarterback. Phillip Rivers has the regular season production. Eli Manning has the postseason production. But outside of that, I just don't see them both getting in. I think it's just Drew Brees.
I love where your head's at, Tyler. Drew Brees was one of mine, but my other one is Randall Cunningham. When you talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they love to say you can't tell the story of the NFL without insert player here. Well, you can't do that without Randall Cunningham. He is the ultimate weapon. We all remember that Sports Illustrated cover of him being the new age quarterback. Without Randall Cunningham, there would be no confidence in Steve Young. There'd be no Cam Newton. There'd be no Michael Vick, and so on and so forth. He was the standard that made everybody think twice about the position. Also, you talk about a 4-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 2-time first team, 2-time second team. He was the Pro Football Writers Association MVP in 1990, in which he threw for 30 touchdown passes, ran for nearly 1,000 yards. And when he retired, he was the all-time leader in rushing yards for a quarterback with just under 5,000, which has now been surpassed. He had 35 rushing touchdowns, 82, 52, and 1 as a starter as a quarterback. And when he started the full slate of games for Philadelphia, they never had a losing season, and they made the playoffs every time. Oh, by the way, we talked about what he did in '98 with the Minnesota Vikings. Outstanding player on both ends of offense, should have been in a long time ago.
Okay, nice case for Randall Cunningham from the czar of the playbook. Both of you guys, no doubt about it when it comes to Drew Brees. Fellas, certainly appreciate it. A reminder about CBS Sports HQ news, highlights, and scores when it happens. We're up as soon as possible. It's all here and it's all free.